Hey guys and gals, it's Atlantean Vampire here, coming at you with another video. I wanted to make the exact opposite video, the exact opposite kind of video from what you usually see on YouTube in regards to vampirism, right? You always see videos posted by self-identified empaths warning against our kind, talking about all of the negatives and how we parasitize on people, how we have nothing to offer, how we have no place in the metaphysical structure of the universe, and how we feed on people's emotional energy. But what always confused me about that is, how does a creature that's separated from source spiritually, that feeds on liquid produced by the chakras, or spiritual liquid, energy produced by the chakras, how do we, as creatures that feed on life force, how do we feed on electrical current in the brain, right? Emotion, I haven't came across emotional energy. I've came across life force that, yes, came to reflect someone's emotional state and have accidentally remembered someone else's memories. So I'm not saying that that's not a thing, but they act like we literally just drain and siphon emotion from someone's brain like a mind flare, and I never understood how that works. Maybe it's a thing, but I don't understand, because to me emotion seems like it does exist spiritually, but when I think of the emotion they're referring to, it's usually like we somehow sustain ourselves off of annoying and rage baiting people. And I gotta say, when I bait people, when I troll people online, right, I do it because it's funny, not because I need to feed, right? And in fact, it drains my emotional energy. But they talk about us as if we can just make other people feel depressed and that makes us feel happy, right? No, after a while, if I'm like just, taking the piss out of someone, I feel tired. I'm like, all right, well, I need to rest up. I need to actually go, and not do this. But yeah, no, there has always been something weird about empaths. I was never quite able to put my finger on until now, and it's quite disturbing, right? They have this interesting way of deflecting where they will do things to us or other people and then find a way to blame it on vampirism. Like we are, the Church of Satan to their Catholic Church, or vice versa. They're the Satan to our Catholic Church. And, they really like us, but also hate us. Like they like how much they hate us, which is funny, because they do something mischievous and near nigh, actually not even near nigh, but actually just straight up sinister, and the thing is, there are way more empaths than there are us, right? And they blow us out of proportion because they're the ones that oftentimes cause most of the problems, right?
Have you been feeling really bad, frustrated, angry, scared? And it doesn't have to do with anything with you, around you, what you've been feeding your mind with, but you just have this extra anxiety and you can't figure it out. Empath, and you've been dealing with energy vampires. Look, you might be new to the spiritual journey and you don't know what's going on. So I'm going to help you out here. You're an empath. And what happens is you were slowly becoming an empath when you started going down that rabbit hole and started going and looking at all these conspiracy theories. You became empathetic. You started putting yourself in other people's shoes. That is being empathetic. You are putting yourself in somebody else's predicament. And you've done this over time and time and time. Well, you've done it so much that you literally can be around a person, another being, and absorb their negative energy because you, my love, have been so empathetic lately. What has happened too is you probably have encountered an energy vampire. Now, there's a couple of them. There are some that know they're energy vampires. There are others that have absolutely no idea. How do you spot an energy vampire? That energy vampire, okay, when you go to a party, don't you notice that a lot of energies come towards you? The ones that you're not a big fan of coming towards you are more than likely those energy vampires.
What do I mean by this? So, I avoid empaths at all costs, right? And there's so many empaths out there that will say that vampires feed on them, that they, try to attach themselves to them spiritually or get in on their life and ruin their life and plot, 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 right? And the thing is, in my experience, and I was like, my own experience alone isn't enough. So I had to ask a few other different breeds of vampire that are descended from different origins, and I asked them, what your relationship with empaths are, and they just scowled at me and were like, we avoid them at all cost. We want nothing to do with them. They are the worst kind of troublemaker. I was like, all right. And it was through some conversing, I'm like, okay, I'm not alone in this. Very good. So oftentimes astral vampires, we go out of our way to avoid empaths. Bad news, big trouble. There are a couple different types of empaths, right? There are, in my opinion, some of the more assholish ones. They're so self-absorbed in their self-righteousness, they pretend to be a bodhisattva, and they act like they were sent here to heal the world of its problems. Instead of letting people deal with their own problems or dealing with problems in an actual way of cause and effect, stopping a problem, right, permanently. They don't even do that. They have this ability to not just empathize, like everyone can empathize, right? Most people, I guess, unless you're like, I don't know, Dahmer. But, they can psychically empathize. They can basically see inside your body, very similar to a vampire, right? They can see your energy, but they can also reflect it like a mirror. They can understand not just what your energy looks like, but what it is to be your energy, right? And in theory, that could, be good, at observing and understanding a situation. But the thing is, because, even though there's more of them than us, right? There are barely any of them compared to the vast majority of regular people, right? And this creates kind of an elitism, right? That they pretend they don't have, right? Whereas, us vampires, we do. We're honest about it because it's fun being an elitist, right? We own it. But they don't. And oftentimes these certain groups of empaths will pity you, right? Instead of using their ability to genuinely get to the crux of the problem of the people they're trying to help and sympathize with them, they will pity them, right? They will genuinely believe their own bullshit so hard, right, that they become arrogant about it, right? As if, yes, they have their own problems, but because they can feel everyone else's problems, that makes them more of a victim and thus more qualified to talk down to individual victims, right? And they will give you some bullshit advice, right? Or just talk down on you, right? Because they're, superior empath practitioners that get into Reiki or whatever it is. And really, instead of helping you, even like they might try to help you, right? How can they help you? Well, their ability is they can understand your problem. But the funny thing about their ability is they can't solve your problem. They can just understand it. So oftentimes, more often than not, they don't actually solve your problem. They just pity you, right? And I don't know about you folks, but I feel like most of you don't need pity, right? You need sympathy, you know? I mean, more often than not, vampires like us, we don't need to feel your problem. We have our own problems, but we can sympathize. We know what it's like to have problems. We can sit down and we're not going to pity you, right? No. At least most of us. So that's basically one class, right? I call them the high elves, right? Because these empaths fit the Thalmor from Skyrim, right? They are loud and they do nothing, right? So then there's the other group of empaths that are in many ways genuinely innocent. They want to help people, right? They feel all of this pain in the world and it's unbearable to them, and they don't want pain to exist in this world. So they try to help people either through Reiki, divination, whatever it is. They'll use every bit of occult knowledge they know to help out individuals down on their luck. Or even their own money, or even their own house, or whatever it is, right? And then oftentimes these people get victimized, right? And they get so victimized that over time, either they end their own life, or they become cynical and cut themselves off from other people, because by exposing themselves to other people, their ability plus their trauma is not a good spiritual, mental, and physical combo. And they end up becoming hermits, right? And their ability is wasted and their lives are wasted because we're social animals, right? But they're too connected, right? So you might think, well, where's the problem? What makes them worse? Well, they have this universal view of empathy. There is so much pain in this world. We're all on the same planet. We're all in this together, so they don't discriminate, right? In fact, they look at people that are objectively evil and say, I can fix him, right? That meme, I can fix him or I can fix her, right? And typically bad people, right, are in the worst pain because humans aren't naturally supposed to be bad, right? And it's typically people that are in severe pain that become the worst people, right? Just evil people are not happy, right? And the thing is, there are people that have overcome all their trauma, all their problems, and are just a net neutral, but also some that have, despite everything, made it on top, right? Contributed towards their collective, helped their families, So these people, these empaths will say, oh, well, this person went through this, their parents were abused, or abused them, they were molested, or they grew up in poverty, or they grew up in a crack den, or whatever it is. And yes, all of those things might be true, but I know just as many people that were abused verbally and physically by their parents, molested, and actually I know a few that did grow up in a crack den. None of them are like these people. This person is a wounded animal, right, that will not stop until someone puts it down, right? There is no healing that. And some of these empaths will realize this truth after they've tortured themselves enough, but most empaths, they never realize it, right? Their nature and their perspective is too flawed, right? And, the thing is, right, because evil people are in the most pain, empaths are more likely to help evil people than they are good people. In fact, you hear this from every empath you come across. I give my heart and soul and my blood to everyone. I do this for this person, and they always hurt me. They always ruin my life. They always do this and this and that, and they won't leave me alone. Or, why can't someone do something nice for me? I projected all this positivity. It's because they only help evil people. They only enable evil people, and evil people know this, and they seek out empaths because of it, right? But empaths also, by their nature, seek them out. So it's very mutual, right? And when common people, and even vampires, when we deal with objective evil, right? We're talking about women abusers, pedophiles, people that are thugs and bribe people, or that bribe the police and extort people. We're talking people that commit vandalism, that rob an old woman of her purse. It's always the empaths that are like, well, you're projecting all this hate and pain when they go through enough of it themselves. It's like, instead of slaying them with the sword, give them medicine, heal them. Yes, because when they're wounded, they heal and they're like, wow, now I can rob twice as many old women. Hell yeah. You give them help you heal them. And in my opinion, that makes you just as complicit in the crime as they are, if not more so, right? It wasn't enough to let evil people die, right? You had to revive them. You had to give them strength. What does the vampire do for their friends? The vampire, we will consume their chakras. We will rip out their chakras. We will travel to them while they are sleeping. We will be naked over their body while they are in bed, and we will feed upon their life force. We will bite into their neck and drink their blood. We will drain them until they wake up anemic, right? They will have nightmares. They will have us as their sleep paralysis demon. We will bring justice, because justice is something that requires logic, not reason. You cannot reason with evil, right? Vampires are that perverted thought in your head where you're at the edge and we're the voice whispering saying, hey, what would happen if you jump off? We're not telling you to jump off, but we're like that little intrusive thought that's like, what would happen? Would I die or would I fly? Whereas empaths are the people that will heal the person that has a compulsive addiction to pushing people off of buildings, even people that aren't asking for that push. They'll randomly kidnap people and then push them off a skyscraper, right? And then when someone brings this person to justice, knocks them down a few pegs, right? So they break their leg, right? The empath, instead of helping some lame child that can't walk, instead of like helping that child walk, right? They will find that person with the broken legs that has an addiction to pushing children off the building, and they will choose to heal the person in the wheelchair first. And then that person will also push them off a building, and then they will wail and moan about how much good they have done, right? And then they'll say, stay away from the vampire because they're cruel, right? I've had this conversation with empaths where I've challenged them. And when you challenge them with reason, they're like, you're just being a vampire. You're just trying to be negative and drain me, right? And that is just crazy to me. That's just like another version of a political argument where you'll know you're winning the argument, and they're like, you're just being hateful, and I'm not going to entertain this conversation any further, right? Because you're just trying to get a rise out of me. It's like, no, I'm trying to like critique your ideas and kind of address something that's wrong here. And if you can change my mind and show me something that's better, please, I'm open to having my mind changed, right? The thing is, we can't even talk to these people. Anytime Vampire, the older brother of the empath, try to intervene and save these poor people from themselves, they get vicious with us, and we're like, because we see through the bullshit. We see what they truly are, and it's pathetic, right? And vampires are the only ones that'll call empaths out on it. And this is why empaths are primarily the main people that post these videos, right? I had a friend a few years ago. They're no longer a friend. They're a piece of shit. But they're a good person. They go out of their way to help people, right? But they also psychoanalyze you, right? They are only willing to help so long as you make them feel like they've done something good, right? Like you are a broken toy for them to fix. A lot of the times, empaths will treat you like a broken toy, right? And this kind of relates to the first one, but also the second one. A little bit of a middle ground, where they won't even view you as a person. They are so empathetic towards you that they stop seeing you as a person. They see you as a subject, right? I see plenty of broken people, but you know what I see primarily? I see people, Empaths see a charity case. They see something, a problem in the world, right? They don't even see you as a person with a problem. They just see you as a problem, right? And when you say, right, like, I don't need this, right? Stop trying to treat me like I'm a lab rat, right? Like I'm a sick patient. Stop trying to give me medicine and just be my friend, right? Treat me like a human being, not like a leper, right? Stop acting like I'm a leper and you're the plague doctor, And empaths will always do this. They'll treat you like a leper instead of treating you like a friend, right? They are genuinely trying to help, right? But also, this friend of mine at the time, they were with an abusive person that was so vile, right? Did absolutely disgusting, unconscionable things, right? Oh, and invited this person to their house, tried to fix them because they thought, well, I have a background in therapy, I can do this and that, I've read, the body keeps the score, and they were genuinely trying to fix this person's life. And I said, listen, they hurt you once, right? This is a partner, right, that I had to pay this person, I think it was $200, because this person would not leave my friend's house. I, as the vampire, right, had to give $200 to the empath's abusive spouse to get that spouse to leave the property, right? Because the alternative was murder, and I wanted to. Oh, and I could have, and I was so ready to. I was willing to, squeeze out their eyeballs and smash the back of their head into a fucking concrete wall. That's what I wanted to do, and that's what would have been the moral thing. But you always have a blind spot for your friends, and I felt bad, right? I chose to feel bad, right? Because the thing is, vampires, we can turn our empathy on and off. This makes empaths also very uncomfortable because most vampires, like us, we have the ability or empathic abilities, right? And we only use them when they suit us, right? And that's usually like tactical. We use them tactically, right? If at all, right? My vampiric mutation, my heart chakra is black, right? But much like the face on that alien from A Silent Place, when it opens, right, it looks similar. And when it opens, it turns green. And I can feel other people's emotions, typically towards friends. So I trusted this person, this empath, enough to have my heart open to them. Another thing is, because vampires, we have the ability to close our hearts. Empaths get frustrated because they can't read us, right? Or because we know that they're reading us and we can basically alter whatever perception of us they have, And that's because we don't like when empaths pry into our privacy, right? Because like when I feed on someone, I don't want to psychoanalyze you. I want to feed on you, And I feel like that's a lot more dignifying than like silently judging you by feeling your own emotions. That just seems like a violation to me. But yeah, because empaths can't read us, right? They hate us. But also because we have empathic abilities and we can do just as much as they can, they resent us for it because they hardly have control over their own abilities. And because vampires are more logical, right? Our whole state of being is about logic. It's about self-control, right? We are very disciplined. Even the most undisciplined psychic vampire, astral werewolf, astral vampire, whatever you call yourself, it's about breaking the Ouroboros. It's about, having agency, disconnecting yourself from source, disconnecting yourself from the conventional incarnation cycle. It's about finding a new place in nature, being a part of something different. It's neither a curse nor a blessing. It's a consistent thing that you're used to, and you grow stiff and rigid in what you are. And I made a video on this. Vampires are quite boring, right? And we have a form of stability and discipline over our own abilities, including our empathic abilities that empaths don't have. Empaths, instead of following logic, they use one of the most, in my opinion, dangerous ESP abilities, right? Off of emotion, right? Instead of mastering their abilities, they let their abilities guide them, right? Instead of having control over themselves, they guide themselves off of, an emotional chemical cocktail in their brain instead of like, a decisive decision, right? That they meditated on, right? And they just go where they feel drawn to, and that's towards evil people, right? But yeah, no, I had my heart open to this individual. And I could have closed it. I should have closed it, but I had it open. So I was feeling a little teeny weensy bit empathic myself, paid this abusive spouse to leave, right? But when they, this person, this empath, they tried to disconnect themselves. They were like, yeah, no, I'm going to move on. There are other people. Yeah, there are other people you can help. You have good ESP abilities. Why don't you help innocent people? Because evil people need help more. Yeah, no, they don't. What the fuck is wrong with you? So again, after however many months, this person, this empath, reinvited this abusive spouse back into their life. And I said to my friend at the time, I was like, I can't be friends with you anymore. right? Because you're just going to destroy yourself. They're going to do this again. And they called me basically a pessimistic asshole, saying that I was too cynical, that, you know, it's really unfair, you know, with all your problems and your traumas and everything you would have to go through, you would condemn someone that went through way more than you. Yeah, except I've never cheated on anyone, right? I've never stolen anything from a friend. I've never done any of the fucked up shit that they have. I've never given someone a dirty shot of heroin to kill them and then pretend to feel bad about it. This person murdered someone and got away with it, mind you. Yeah, they literally got a bad heroin shot or too much heroin, fentanyl, right? And this poor woman that was a mother to some children, right? This woman that she did, or the yeah, this woman, she did drugs with this spouse, this partner of my former friend, and you know the spouse, the abusive spouse, they let the woman die, right? They got away with it. And anyways, my friend at the time allowed the murderer that literally allowed someone to overdose on their watch, right, into their life, and let them back into their house because they seemed to be making changes, right? They were positively changing. And I'm like thinking, Jesus Christ. And people hate the vampire. Look at this. This is what empaths do, right? They enable destruction. They enable death and suffering for no goddamn reason. And it hurts people, right? Because empaths think that if they help a bad person, if this bad person, you know, reacts badly to them or whatever, it's just them, right? No. Every way you enable them, they're going to do unto you what they do unto everyone else, right? And vice versa. They're going to do to everyone else what they do to you. You're not special. And because they're drawn to bad people like a moth to a flame, right? And that moth gets its wings singed. Yeah, because you have that situation happen, right? You know, they make evil people stronger, right? That's their nature, and it's sickening. That's all they do. Anyways, there was a point I was going to make, and I just completely forgot. Oh yes, now I realize. Yeah, another truth about the empaths, right? The point I forgot. In the process of re-enabling the abuser, right, out of their empathic, nature, because they're so fully focused on the person abusing them, they can only see the person abusing them. So when this person leaves the house and goes and abuses other people, victimizes other people, the empath is so honed in on their abuser and enabling their bad behavior that they, in the process of healing, will not see the countless trails of body left behind. That's the worst part, in my opinion, right? You know, you have the empath that instead of helping the needy and innocent, using their empathy, their empathic, not even their empathy, but their empathic abilities selectively, helping the good and condemning the bad. They only focus on the bad. They only heal the bad so the bad can harm more innocent people, also creating the cycle of further causing them this pain they feel by the world, right? By leaving behind this trail of bodies. And it's crazy to me, right? They have no idea what they're doing, and they need discipline. And my former friend, they said to me, that you can't pick and choose who you're empathetic to. That's sociopathic behavior. I'm like, no, people do it all the time, right? Most people do it all the time, right? Like a father that loves his child knows to have empathy for his wife and child. He also knows not to have empathy for a pedophile or a rapist of wives. Empaths are spoiled children with an overwhelming optimism that is not only killing them, it's killing the world around them. It's causing all of this pain. If you've been affected by an abuser of any kind, right, they were more than likely enabled and healed by an empath. An empath probably set them up so that they could further abuse you. This is why we, again, as vampire, avoid the empaths, because they just leave a trail of destruction in their wake. And no, it's terrible. We see a problem, we kill it. We see someone in need, we help that person. But we get condemned because of how we derive the energy used to sustain our soul, right? Well, we can own up to that. We can say, sure, you think that's evil? Sure, then we're evil. But what about all of the people that are hurt as a result of your existence? Hurt as a result of your abilities? Anyways, my former friend, right? They allowed this person back into their life after everything they had done. And then I get a call while I'm at work. This is back when I worked at Walmart. And they were crying and all upset, saying that they were being held hostage in their house. And I closed my heart chakra and said logically, okay, after I'm done with work, I'll come over and deal with the situation. And the entire time I was thinking, I told you so, right? Like, maybe I'm a monster, but you deserve this, right? An empath that enables abusers deserves to be abused, because this person killed a mother, killed an innocent person, and you're healing them. How many more mothers have to die before you understand, what's really going on? And in my opinion, my friend healing a person that kills mothers, they deserved what was going on back at their house. And after I got done with work, I walked over. There were police everywhere, and I went. My friend's spouse locked themselves inside my former friend's apartment, and were destroying all of their personal possessions. Stabbed a knife through their wall, ripped apart occult grimoires that cost like hundreds of dollars, including some book I believe that was signed personally by Edgar Cavall, and just tearing apart everything. Beautiful destruction, and this person was innocent and didn't deserve it, but also they enabled this person, so in a way they did deserve it. Justice is not about reason. Justice is about logic. It's about checks and balances. If you want justice, you have to accept that how you feel about other people is irrelevant. So us vampire, we have an objective sense of justice that empaths are completely blind to, and they know this. They know that we're a better judge of character, so they call us the parasites. They call us the ones you should avoid and remove from your relationships or whatever, right? Empaths enable the people that not only actually, you have to, sure, we might drain you of energy, spiritual energy, right? But they are the ones that actually enable those that will drain your mental energy, and again, I think on some level they know this, and the vampire is a convenient scapegoat, and I thought it was funny. I helped my former friend, right? And that was the last time they dealt with that person, right? Because this person got arrested. It was a whole thing. They spent months trying to get their property back. Well, that's just the thing. That's just one example. I've met so many empaths. There was this girl I knew that was a genuine empath, right? And she had this thing for healing people, doing Reiki, and trying to help people out. And the thing is, right, there were so many people that needed help, good people, right? But because empaths are attracted to pain, she would always end up with abusive men, right? And then think that dating them would be a good way to have them emotionally open up. Men that are so emotionally gone that there's nothing to open up to. But because empaths they try to be good people in their own fucked up way, they assume just because of how much, they personally feel that they can't comprehend someone that doesn't, And oftentimes when you like, yeah, they can feel other people's energy, their states of being. But when there's someone that feels nothing at all, they're just genuinely evil, oftentimes that person, that empath, will reflect, themselves. Like the bad person will reflect the empath reflecting, and it'll just go back. And the empath will, not feel anything. They think maybe I haven't tried hard enough. Maybe I need them to open up, or they might be lured in further because they'll just be experiencing their own emotions because this evil piece of shit is already dead inside. And they're thinking, well, that must not be the case. What I felt, that's very similar to me means that they're a good person on the inside. No matter which way they put it, that's just not how it works. And she would end up with abusive men that were on the sex offender registry that, hurt children, that would sell drugs to children, that were involved in arson. And she would get beaten nearly to death each and every time. And I'd say, hey, you can't spiritually heal people. You can only, stop. And she would invest money into these people. Okay, so you're financially enabling a domestic abuser, someone with a fetish for fire, somebody that hurts children. Oh, well, that was a misunderstanding. She lied about her age. No, he lied to you about her lying about her age. Stop. And yeah, no matter what you do, right? So at a certain point, she tried calling for help, right? She called for help saying that he was going to kill her. And I said, call the cops. I'm not going to come over and beat up another boyfriend of yours, right? We're not even dating, right? And I wouldn't want to date you because you're an empath. You are an annoying skank, and I don't like you. None of my kind like you, right? So, yeah, I think the cops were called and that was broken up. But last I checked, she's still doing the same thing. Whenever I come across an empath, they are only causing trouble. They are only causing destruction in their wake. And it's disturbing. It's sickening. They are, in my opinion, psychic parasites. At least with a vampire, you know what you're getting. With them, they will enable monsters. They are not good people. So that's just my argument, but you can feel however you want on the subject.